Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something quite profound. We're looking at these excerpts from The Silence of Survival and Forbidden Reflections.
Mm.
And our goal, really, is to unpack the complex emotions, the sort of hidden meanings, and the big questions they raise about relationships, silence, and, well, self-discovery. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into something deeply resonant.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here is how these words articulate feelings many of us recognize, but often really struggle to name.
Yeah?
It's not a straightforward story. It's much more poetic, introspective. It challenges assumptions we might have about communication, about connection.
Right.
So this deep dive, it'll push us, I think, to look beyond just the surface of interactions.
It definitely hits hard. And like you said, right from the start, the tone is, well, it's heavy. It opens with, because of the repression we grew up in, we learned to admire from a distance.
Well, that line itself.
It just lands, doesn't it? It sets up this stark contrast between, say, the freedom to express and this much heavier silence of survival.
Exactly.
You feel this yearning described, this deep need to be heard.
Yeah.
You wanted to speak. You wanted the word to reach someone. But then it pivots. It shows the painful side, being unheard or maybe even deliberately silenced. But he wanted the word for himself. He didn't like you. He gave you medicine in red.
Yeah, that part.
Not healing, not love, just a prescription for silence.
Yeah.
That phrase, wow, prescription for silence.
Yeah.
It really stands out.
It's an incredibly potent image.
It is. What's going on there psychologically? Is it pure control or maybe something subtler like discomfort with someone else's truth?
Well, it's not just an absence of speech, is it? It feels like an active enforcement, almost clinical, like you said, a prescription. Psychologically, it points to a dynamic where one person's voice is, well, managed, stifled. Maybe not always out of malice, but often from, a place of discomfort. Discomfort with vulnerability, maybe, or a need to keep things orderly, predictable.
Okay.
And that connects straight to the bit later on. And while they call it normal is just a name for what hurts quietly.
Yes.
Because that's the crucial thing, isn't it? Our language, our culture, they shape how we can even be intimate. And sometimes they make real connections just invisible, unvalued.
Normal can be a cover.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just about one-on-one interactions. It's about these broader societal pressures, the ones that label unspoken pain or needs as normal. We learn to conform, put on a certain face. And the text says we say things because we're taught to, but what we mean is buried.
Buried. Wow.
So it's pushed underground. It festers quietly. Sometimes we don't even recognize it in ourselves. It's like getting a sugar pill for deep cut.
That's a chilling way to put it. That normal can be this cloak for systemic pain. It really makes you question the cost of keeping up that appearance.
It does.
And if that normal silence hides so much conflict, how real can our connections be? Which I guess leads us right into the relationship dynamics. The text shifts focus there, highlighting this fundamental difference in needs. It says, there was a need in you, not for comfort, but for confrontation.
Yeah, that's striking.
It is. Usually we look for comfort, right? But here, the need is for confrontation, for like a direct, honest, maybe even difficult engagement. Why would someone need confrontation over comfort in a relationship?
It completely flips the script, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're sort of conditioned to think intimacy means ease, comfort.
Right.
But maybe for some, comfort feels like stagnation, like denying truths that need airing. So confrontation in this context maybe isn't about aggression. Maybe it's about authenticity, taking off the masks that society calls normal.
Okay, wanting what's real, even if it's hard.
Yeah. Exactly. It speaks to this deep dissatisfaction that's bigger than just specific complaints, which is why the text asks that huge question. How do you complain about life when life itself is the complaint?
That's almost existential.
It is. And it shows this clash isn't just about personalities, it's fundamental worldviews, coping mechanisms. Their core philosophies are laid bare. His philosophy was demolition. Yours was reconstruction.
Demolition versus reconstruction, wow.
That opposition, that constant struggle, it creates this internal chaos. The text calls it halchi.
Algae.
Yeah, this profound inner mess where even basic feelings get questioned. One person wants to dismantle, maybe as a defense, maybe to control things. The other trying to rebuild, to heal.
So they're fundamentally at odds.
Constantly. Psychologically, it often traps people. One person's attempt at feeling safe actively blocks the other's ability to grow. Think of a broken house. One wants to tear it down. The other sees potential, wants to renovate piece by painstaking piece.
That's a perfect analogy. Demolition versus reconstruction. It makes the conflict seem almost inevitable. And being caught in that helchy, that chaos, trying to navigate it. It's an impossible spot,
Mm-hmm.
which leads straight to that really raw question in the text. And somewhere in the rubble, you ask, what do I even like about that person?
It's that moment of stark clarity amidst the mess.
Yeah, and then it dives into something maybe uncomfortable but relatable. You didn't want a whole person.
Mm.
You wanted the part that wouldn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
That suggests wanting like a curated version, a
Yeah.
safer piece, not the whole messy person.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Wanting only an incomplete version of someone. How does that affect the connection itself?
Well, it's often a defense mechanism, right? Maybe subconscious. If we only deal with a part, we feel like we can control things, avoid abandonment, avoid their full complexity.
Keep it manageable?
Sort of. But the text pushes back. What did I interact with? His truth or his performance? Was anything between us ever 100%?
Right. Those questions.
That's the core insight, maybe. Our fear of vulnerability can make us settle for an idea of a person, a fragment, instead of their whole truth. And that inherently limits how deep or real the connection can be.
So you end up interacting with a mirage.
Essentially, yes. You build a reality on a partial truth, which almost guarantees disillusionment down the line. Trust erodes, maybe even trust in your own judgment.
That really challenges us to look at how we perceive people, how we might fragment them to protect ourselves but lose something real in the process. And that flows so well into the next part, which moves beyond just love into other kinds of connection. The text wrestles with that reality versus idealization thing. Maybe I liked him, maybe I loved the idea of him, but it was just that, an idea.
A moment of realization.
Yes, separating the fantasy from the fact. But then it brings in recognition and human gratitude. It says, on that part I saw in you, recognition, a kind of human gratitude, the kind we don't know how to name.
That unnamed feeling.
Exactly. It feels like this profound, unacknowledged gift passed between them. Maybe you gave someone a picture of yourself. He didn't know what he was holding. What happens with these deep but unnamed intimacies? What do we lose by not having the words, the cultural framework for them?
We lose a huge amount, and it points directly to a cultural gap. The text is explicit, but we don't have that culture. We don't have the language for that kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
And that lack of language is so significant, it stops us from fully understanding or expressing or even valuing these deep, nuanced connections that aren't just simple love or friendship or hate.
It's like you feel it but can't label it.
Exactly. Imagine having this rich inner world of color, but you only have words for red, blue, and yellow. All the subtle shades, the complex blends of feeling, they stay unexpressed, unacknowledged, often.
So they get buried too.
They do. Which brings us back to that buried meaning. The critical point here is, when our cultural vocabulary falls short, truly meaningful human experiences get shoved into silence or get misunderstood. It creates isolation, even when you're technically connected to someone.
That's a powerful thought.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of our struggle in relationships comes from simply not having the right tools, the right words, to capture the complexity beyond basic labels? If we can't name something, how can we properly understand it or honor it?
Right. It leaves so much unseen, unvalued. Like being handed something precious but having no way to describe its worth.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay, so if the prescription for silence and this lack of cultural language leave us unheard by others, maybe it's not surprising we struggle to see ourselves clearly too. Which brings us to that final, really potent metaphor, the mirror. I have a mirror, a surface meant to reflect, to share, to reveal.
The tool for self-reflection.
Exactly. But then the twist, but the reflection was forbidden. Why forbidden?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean for how we see ourselves if looking is off limits?
That paradox of the forbidden reflection, it feels central, doesn't it? Why forbid? Well, maybe because what it shows doesn't fit the normal expectations we talked about.
The ones that enforce silence.
Right. It challenges the comfortable stories we tell ourselves or the one society tells us. It might reveal that that inner chaos we try to hide, the parts that don't fit neatly.
Okay.
But there's real power, the text suggests, in claiming even a distorted image as ours. That distortion isn't necessarily negative. It might just be unfiltered truth, forged in those difficult experiences, in the chaos itself.
So embracing the messiness.
I think so. The insight might be. Embracing our distorted butter's reflection is about reclaiming authenticity. It's recognizing that our true self is often shaped by the very experiences, the silences, the unnamed connections that defy easy labels.
Moving beyond simple categories.
Yes. It helps us move past seeing ourselves as just situations, not stories, not love. It lets us embrace a fuller, more complex self-understanding. Acknowledging the chaotic journey, the unspoken hurts, the weird intimacies, and realizing that's what makes our reflection uniquely ours. Even if it's not the perfect image we're told to want, it's the defiant truth.
What an incredible arc through these excerpts. We started with that heavy weight of unspoken words, the silence of survival. Moved through the conflicts and relationships, demolition versus reconstruction, that inner hierarchy.
Yeah, the chaos.
Then into those unnamed intimacies, the limits of our language, and finally landing on this powerful idea of the forbidden, but ultimately ours reflection.
It ties it all together.
It really does. It's such a potent look at our inner world, how we try to connect, and the need to reclaim our own, often complicated truth. Thanks for joining this deep dive, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Well, if our culture and language sometimes do fail us, if they don't give us the words for real intimacy or self-understanding, maybe the real work starts by just acknowledging that silence and then finding new ways, even if they feel distorted, to hold on to what is uniquely ours. So I'd encourage you to keep reflecting. How do you express truth? How do you perceive it in yourself and others? Even when the reflection isn't perfectly clear, maybe look for those moments of human gratitude that don't have easy names.
What stands out to you from today's deep dive? Something to think about.